Pistons get blown out by the Indiana Pacers on their home floor, a game in which they were down by 30 points. We're going to talk about that and just my overall frustration and sadness with this team in just a moment.
Passing lane, skies a jam. Dynamite dunk and the crowd loves it.
Welcome back to Pistons Intellect. I'm your host, Jack Kelly. You can follow me on Twitter at Jack_Kelly_313. And before we get into today's show, as always, if you're feeling so kind, hit that subscribe button. Really want to hit 1,000 before the end of the season and support the Pistons Intellect brand in any way possible over on Instagram at Pistons_Intellect, or you can follow me on Twitter, as I just mentioned. Now, once again, unfortunately, I had high hopes for this game today. The Pistons fall to the Pacers 103-122, but they were down by 30. And as I was about to say, I had some high hopes for this game. Cade Cunningham was back in the lineup. We got some unfortunate news about Asar Thompson and Isaiah Stewart, which I'll touch on at the end of the episode. But they are out. We got the news they're out for the rest of the season. Fontecchio was out, and someone else was out. But regardless, the Pistons had Ivy, Duran, and Cade all available for tonight. And, the Pacers have been up and down recently. Tyrese Halliburton's been struggling majorly since the All-Star break. So I thought maybe there's a chance the Pistons sneak a win here. They'd lost 3 in a row. I by no means I thought the team had turned a corner in the past month or so, but I thought maybe this is a game they win. And look, Cade Cunningham came out firing. He scored 10 or 12 points in the first quarter, had 17 at the half, was on track for a triple-double. Looked like he'd come out with the intention of putting the team on his back and trying to score 35, 40 points. But yeah, same old story, which has kind of been the story for the past 4 games now, where the Pistons kind of put up some form of fight in the first half, but ultimately, once the third quarter comes, they just completely fall apart and get down by 20 points or more. Tonight, I think they're down by 30 in the third. And truthfully, I haven't done this often, but I turned it off halfway through the fourth. So I don't even know what happened there. It looks like the Pistons might have scored some buckets to get it back to 19. But I'm just so sick of this. I'm so sick of this. The players out there, they don't even look like they want to be there. The effort at times is horrible. The Pacers are one of the best offensive teams in the league, but their ball movement, spacing on the floor just absolutely annihilated the Pistons defensively. And it was embarrassing to watch that third quarter. Pacers would just swing the ball 2-3 times. And what do you know? Pascal Siakam's cutting underneath an open paint to put it in the layup. Tyrese Halliburton's kind of just shifty. The way he moves around the floor and just his quick ball movement, he just exposed the Pistons. And of course, he has a bounce back game tonight. Finishes with 20 points, 9 assists, 9 of 13 from the field, plus 18, 4 steals. As Paul Pierce said early in the season, if you're in a slump, just wait till you're playing the Pistons or Spurs and you'll bounce back. It's exactly what Tyrese Halliburton did. And Pistons just didn't seem to care. They're just broken. They had their 29th and 30th players hit the floor tonight, which now ties a record for the most players in a season to ever suit up for an NBA team, with Metu making his debut tonight and Buddy Boheim. Sorry, I can't even say his name, but he made his first appearance for the Pistons this season. So Pistons are just cycling through players. But once again, in approaching April, end of March, Pistons just are throwing G League, two-way guys out there, fringe NBA players. And I know some of it's to do with health, but what a disgrace of a season, honestly, that you are at this point in the season where you're playing how many players played tonight? It looks like 14 or 15 players hit the floor. You're getting blown out. Your coach after the game saying no excuse for that effort. Are we really doing this in year 4? Are we really going to go into the summer and make no change? This isn't even a personal shot at anyone in the front office and on the coaching staff and even the players. This is just if you don't get to the end of this season and make some changes to all facets, honestly, you should be looking to make change And when I talk about front office, like I'm strictly talking about basketball operations. Like I I like I'm not talking about the team's media team or the social team. Like shout out to those people. I feel bad for them. As someone who works in social media, like I don't know how the Pistons content team has functioned this season because it is bloody hard to make content when there is barely any positive around the team. So shout out to the Pistons content and media team, even the sales team. I don't know how they're selling tickets. Shout out to them because somehow that arena always has people in it. And shout out to the fans as well. But man, people dealing with strictly basketball decisions on the floor, like if you cannot review that and make some sort of change, then like this shit is like this. It's just I don't even want to think about it. Like if they come back with a similar alignment in the front office coaching and roster department because it just makes no sense. Like that, and like that's what I tweeted out after the game. Like my one piece of hope, and I've spoken about it on the show regularly, and for those that tune into each episode, firstly, I appreciate you, but secondly, you'll know what I'm going to say here. But I tweeted out my last piece of hope for this team was to close the season strong and head into the summer with some positivity. Seems like that certainly isn't happening, and with that, I'm all for shaking up the core. This thing doesn't work. Healthy or not, I don't see the vision anymore. And then I went on to say, even if you still believe the core four can be all stars, which I still hold out hope and think they actually can be. But even if you still believe that, I said, I don't think it's happening in this environment. All this losing can't be good for development. And then I just finished off with goes without saying, but the front office is in desperate need of change too. Everything within basketball ops has to be reviewed. Now, and I had some people come back at me and say, and look, it's a fair pushback, and they say, well, Jack, like their core four is so young, and like there's so much potential there still. Like you just need to let this thing play out. And my rebuttal to that is I understand those comments, and that's where I was last season. And to be honest, I probably still would have been of that opinion this season if this thing hadn't have gone as horribly as it has. But I think this season going as horrible as it has is a product of just throwing four young guys out there and expecting them to transform your team when you don't really surround them with the necessary pieces for a. But also, not only do you not surround them with talent, but like it's kind of seeming like these guys don't fit together. And we're seeing with like someone like Jalen Duran, like what's happened to Jalen Duran, man? Like I know I've been on him about his defense all year, but I mean, even offensively now, like he's starting to look so much like Andre Drummond, and it's like it's kind of sad because it's like I have seen him throughout this season develop like a really nice hook shot around the basket and like this pivot, and his footwork's developed and his patience as like a finish around the rim has developed. Obviously, he's always been good at dunking, but tonight, like he's just rushing up ugly hook shots in the post, like shots that I have never seen him take before, like at least multiple in a game, and especially not when it's like when there's like 10 seconds on the shot clock. Like he looks like he's forcing stuff just out there playing for himself. Jaden Ivey, like, man, his past month of basketball has been really rough and hard to watch because he shows flashes, but once again, the consistency just hasn't been there. And I mean, it's just really tough because all four of these players, I believe, have some form of all-star potential. And it feels like Cade and Asai are the untouchables, which I think is the right thing. But for Duren and Ivy, it's just, man, like, I don't know what's happened, but their development seems to be going in the wrong direction. And I think it's a product of being in a losing environment, as well as, of course, is on them. And maybe they are just not as good as we thought. That's obviously definitely a case. But like, I just feel like having these four together and relying on them heavily might not be the best for development, because if you have all these four, like ideally, if you're going to keep all four together, you want them to start, like, and so you can really only surround them with one veteran in that starting group. And I know you can mix and match lineups, but I mean, Cade Cunningham's going into year 4. He's the guy. For me, entering this season, maybe I was a fool. Maybe I was low on Cade. Maybe I was worried about the injuries, but I wasn't convinced he's like could be a first option on like a playoff team, or maybe he's ultimately a 2 on a championship team, but like the number 2 guy. But he's proven to me like he's 100% who you build around. He's a franchise. Yes, he's not a perfect player. Turnovers are still frustrating. Defensively needs to get better. He's in a bit of a rough patch right now, but I think he's shown enough where you are like, all right, there is zero doubt where you build everything around him. And he's going to sign a huge extension this summer. So he's going into year 4 next season. And the Pistons have like won 22 games, 17 games, and they might win 14, 15 this season. Like, you need to start winning. And I don't think you can start winning games and being competitive with 4 young guys in their second, third, and fourth season. Not to mention you're still trying to play Marcus Sasser. As well as whoever you might draft this summer. Like, I think you can't just go out and sign Tobias Harris. While I think he would help, like, you can't just come back with Fontecchio and Tobias in the core 4 and think like you're going to rise up the standings. Like, I think and I feel like the Pistons are hoping for this, but like they really need to consider moving, like, unfortunately to say it, but it feels like it'll be Ivy or Duran, but they need to consider moving one of their young pieces to try and bring in some real, like, actually good NBA playoff caliber players. Because what I see night in, night out, and I like they've been undermanned the past 2 games, but like you're on your home floor, they got out to a great start tonight, and then just to get obliterated, like at some point you just have to show like you can compete with good teams in the NBA. And this team just fails at every opportunity. Like it goes beyond them just being young and like just young and inexperienced. Like for me, it's like this doesn't work. It just does not work. And I don't think the core 4 fit. And cook me if it does work out, because part of me, I've invested so much time, like we all have energy, into this core 4, and I still like them all individually. Yeah. And I've actually, in my course of following the Pistons and making content, I've actually done some really cool things with one of the players in that core 4. So there's like I have a heavy investment in these players. But it's like, I just don't think this works. And I don't think it's good for anyone in that core 4 right now. Like I've tried to be positive this whole season, but there's something about the way this season's ending, which has just left me to the conclusion that I just think like all parties will be better off if one's moved to bring in a better player, and that opens up an opportunity for, say, a Jalen Duren to go somewhere else and grow. As much as it'll hurt me to see, like if they can get back an ideal player, someone in their prime who's like, you can put on the wing or can be space at the 5, like, that makes sense. Basically, I guess where like I'm ending and what I'm saying with all of this is like, outside of Kate Cunningham and I guess Asar Thompson, I'm all for moving everyone. Like there's no one out. Like it's just those 2. And honestly, I love I love Asar, and I think they should keep him because I think he's got an extremely high upside. The position he plays, to have that upside, that athleticism, that kind of defensive potential is, extremely valuable. But his offensive game still scares the hell out of me. Like maybe, like I don't see it happening, but part of me, like a small part of me, is even open to moving him in the right deal. It's just like ultimately, Cade's going into year 4. This franchise, I don't believe they have time to wait around next season for 3. Like, you just can't go into next season waiting for like 4 to 5 players to develop and hope that they're all going to, because development is never linear. That's what we've learned this season. Like, Jaden Ivey seems to have taken a step back this season. That's not to say he's going to take a step like forward in year 3, but it's just like, you also can't just say, like, expect your, like, Marcus Sasser, Jaden Ivey, Jalen Duren, Isaiah Stewart, Cade Cunningham, all of them to take steps next season like this. Like, what we've learned this season is, if you didn't already know it, that is not going to happen. Of those 5 to 6 young players the Pistons have, 2 might not, we might fully know next year that one of Ivy or Duran don't have it. And, another team will still take a shot on them, but maybe they just don't have it. And that's what happens in the draft. Like, you're never going to hit on every single player. So I think you really need to assess what you can get for some of these young guys and bring in some known commodities, because there is so much unknown each and every night with this team. Like, you never know what you're going to get, and there's so many inconsistencies with everything, offensively, defensively. It's just, it's a real mess, and I hate to be so negative, but this game, for some reason, has just tipped me over the edge. I was already close to like this feeling against Boston, but that I didn't see the Pistons really winning that game. I was frustrated. Whoever watched my video would have sensed that, but this game today was just, that sucked. That sucked. Like, oh man, let me know how you're feeling in the comments below. Like I don't know where to go. I just, this season needs to end. And yeah, the season needs to end so some changes can be made, if not now. And Pistons might not be resetting in the sense of trading out everyone and getting draft picks and that thing, but they need a serious reset, because what we are witnessing is just a treadmill of horrific basketball each and every season. And whatever the plan was at the end of last season for this season didn't work. And whatever the plan was last season didn't work. So yeah, some serious reassessment is required, because I don't see much hope with what we have right now, unfortunately. So let me know how you're feeling below. That's going to do it for today's video. I'll be back to review the Pistons game on Saturday. Friday night for my friends in America, but Saturday here in Australia, will review that game. Not sure who the Pistons are playing, but we'll keep pushing. We'll keep pushing the content out, because I think this helps some people. It helps me just getting these rants out. So support the channel in any way you can. I'm always appreciative. And until next episode, go Pistons.